All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ole Miss After Dark, joined once again by my main man, Hitch, as we talk about Ole Miss basketball. Rebels off to a hot start in SEC play, 3-0 after we take care of the Bayou Bengals in Oxford on Saturday night. And Hitch, nothing but opportunities coming up for the Rebels, right? We're one of three remaining undefeated conference teams, us, Alabama, Auburn. And after Tuesday night, there will definitely not be three undefeated teams because the Rebels travel to Tuscaloosa to take on the Tide.
Yeah, I mean, you can look or you can say that the three games that we've played have been, of the lesser competition of the SEC, but the fact still remains, starting out 3-0 in this conference gives you a head start this year, probably more than other years, because this conference is going to be real tough to get through, and especially going to Arkansas and getting that win. It's going to be tough getting any wins on the road in the SEC this year, and that's a one in the plus column there for the Rebels.
Yeah, and just kind of piggybacking off that, Georgia, their net is up to 26 right now, so they've just got to jump one more spot, and that home win against Georgia turns into a quad one win as opposed to a quad two. I believe you got to be in the top 25 for home games, top 75 for road games for that to qualify, quad one versus quad two. But Arkansas in Fayetteville, that's a quad one win. LSU quad two, they sit 69. Let me just run down what these SEC teams look like when it comes to net. Auburn number 1, Tennessee 4, Florida 5, Alabama 7, Kentucky 13, Mississippi State 16, A&M 17, Ole Miss 22, Georgia 26, Missouri 34, Texas 40, Vanderbilt 43, Oklahoma 47, Arkansas 49, LSU 69, and then South Carolina at number 90. As it stands right now, any road game in the SEC that is not in Columbia, South Carolina, is a quad one opportunity. That is nuts when you talk about a conference with 16 teams in it.
Yeah, it's wild. And that Georgia win, just continues to look better and better. Mike White's done a great job there. And when we won that game, I didn't know that it was going to be a good win as it was, even just a couple of weeks later. So it's a really big win.
Yeah. Mike White and Georgia Bulldogs definitely doing their part to make that win look as good as possible. Like I said, right on the cusp of that potentially being a quad one win for the Rebels. And this is a team that's really starting to stack up quad one wins. 14-2 overall, 3-0 in the SEC. 4-2 in quad one, 2-0 in quad two, 1-0 in quad three, 7-0 in quad four. I think that's the biggest difference in this Rebel team and past Rebel teams is you don't have that glaring wart on your resume. So far, you have 2 losses, both of them being quad one. So Ole Miss really sets up to put themselves into the tournament. I think the latest projection has us as a number 6 seed, which obviously puts you safely in the field come tournament time. So Chris Beard doing a hell of a job here in year 2 in Oxford. Want to look back at this LSU game real quick, though, Hitch. Seems like Ole Miss did a really good job. It was sloppy in the first half, a lot of turnovers there. Cleaned it up in the second half. One thing that I took away from this game, though, that really impressed me is how spread out the scoring was. We had 5 guys in double digits. Malik Dia leading the way with 19. And then you get Jamin Brakefield with 16. Sean Padula with 11, even with the bad shooting night, going 1 for 7 from 3-point. And then you get Dre Davis with 10 and Jalen Murray with 10 as well. Dre Davis is one of the guys I want to highlight here. If we keep getting this kind of production out of him, 10 points, 6 rebounds, that's going to be a big boost to this Rebel team.
Yeah, I mean, and going back to the sloppiness, right, it feels like the first 3 games in the SEC, have been ugly, games for the most part. Like, I haven't seen where I haven't watched one of those 3 games and been like, oh, we're clicking. Right, this team is really going, but on the plus side of that is it feels like this year, when in past years we may have kind of thrown those games away or found a way to lose those games. We've won those 3 games this year, and I think it comes down to us on the defensive side of the ball, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, we'll talk about Dia too. I see you've got a highlight over there. I wanted to talk about him, but Dre Davis is a good point out. He's been up and down, right? In non-con, it felt like he was the guy, and he was putting up a lot of points. And then once we got to maybe Memphis and then into the conference games, it felt like the competition got a little higher, and maybe he disappeared a little. So getting double digits out of him last night. He played 30 minutes. Shot well from the field. Felt like he didn't take any bad shots or any forced shots. It felt like there were a couple of 3-pointers that LSU were just like, hey, we'll give that to you. And he took them and made them. And that was a good sign because I know that he was knocking some of those down in non-con and had struggled a bit from 3-pointer the past few games, from the 3-point line the past few games. And so, yeah, you're right. We keep getting that production out of him. It says nothing but good things going forward.
And to touch on your point about the defense, that was a big part, obviously, of the win last night against LSU, just like it was against Arkansas, just like it was against Georgia. Chris Beard has really drilled that into this team. They seem to be taking on the things that Chris Beard's saying and really putting it onto the court. Points off turnovers last night were a big plus for the Rebels. We ended up with 23 of them as opposed to 11 for LSU. We had a lot of turnovers in the first half, really cut down on them on the second half, but continued to force them on the defensive end. We outscored them 12-4 in points off turnovers in the first half, 11-7 in the second half for, as I said, a total of 23-11. This team is really, really starting to pick up the defensive intensity. And when you force as many turnovers as we do and you don't turn it over, that's usually a pretty good recipe. LSU with 17 turnovers last night. We were uncharacteristically with 13. I think we averaged somewhere around 7 or 8 a game. Had 9 in the first half. Cut that down to 4 in the second half, though. So that seems to be what's winning ball games for this team right now is its defense forcing turnovers and not just forcing them, but going down and scoring off of them as well. Fast break points was also another big separation point for these two teams. We outscored them 20-9 in fast break points, which again goes back to the defensive part of it.
Yeah, I think that we are best when our defense leads to offense, right? It leads to a transition opportunity where maybe we have numbers or a breakaway for a dunk or a layup. Like I love the way that we play defense, and I'm not going to sit here and I'm pretty good with basketball. I'm a lot better with basketball than I am football. I'll say that, but I'm not going to sit here and try to say that I understand completely what we're doing on defense, but I do understand the concept of it is we're trying to keep it out of the middle. And we worked really hard on keeping it on the outside. And man, I love it when I see somebody jump a passing lane. Padula is one of the best. And man, that ball starts skipping around the outside and he jumps that passing lane, leads to an easy bucket a lot of times. I think where a lot of our struggle is when we get bogged down on offense, when we don't get a transition bucket or we don't get defense leading into a quick offensive score. If we get down and we have to set our offense up, sometimes I think we get bogged down. So the defense is very important, not only for keeping the other team off the scoreboard, but I think for leading into transition buckets where if we can get a bunch of transition buckets, like you said, we outscored them 20-9 last night in fast break points. We outscored them at points for turnovers, right? We outscored them by double digits, I think you said. So if we keep doing that, we're going to be successful. I think, especially with this team that Chris Beard's put together, because we're not especially big, but we are quick, and man, we can play defense.
Yeah. Just kind of to your point there, we were plus 12 points off turnovers and plus 11 on fast break points. One thing we need to shore up a good bit here is those second chance points, which, look, we always knew that's the Achilles heel of this Ole Miss team, right? Rebounding, limiting second chance points. LSU outscored us 17-5 there, had a real big advantage, plus 10 in the second half, 13-3 in the second half, or in second chance points. But then when you go down and you look at the rebounding, Ole Miss didn't do that bad. We got out rebounded 33-32. I think that's kind of the sweet spot for Ole Miss. You don't necessarily have to look at it and say we need to out rebound teams by 5, 6, 7 boards. You want to stay kind of right there even with them, right? You want to be plus minus 1 or 2. And if you do that with this team, you have a really good shot at winning because of how well we play defense. I'm glad you pointed out Padula when it comes to jumping passing lanes. Saw a lot of that last night, and even times where he anticipated a pass, jumped it, and threw their offense out of whack because they didn't make the pass, right?
Yeah, David Barnes is the same way.
Another guy.
Man, they will get on those wings and they will jump those passes. And you can, as watching it on TV, you see it coming, right? Like before that it happens, and you're like, oh, here we go. It's so much fun.
Yeah. So it kind of makes them reset, do something differently on offense. Saw that a couple times with Padula in particular last night against LSU, where he disrupted the offense simply by getting by jumping a passing lane there and making them do something else. So look, overall, really good game for Ole Miss. Obviously, LSU is not going to be one of the top 8 teams in this conference by any stretch of the imagination, but they're not a bad basketball team. Let's switch gears a little bit here. Go to our guy Dia, right? I mean, he's has really played well here since conference play has started, and then you look back and he's got 19 points, 7 rebounds. Goes 2 for 4 from downtown. Probably my favorite thing about Malik Dia is every time I see him shoot the ball, all I see is early 2000s flashbacks of the Portland Trailblazers and Arvydas Sabonis out there firing it up, not getting half an inch off the ground. And I love it every single time I see it.
All I see is no air between the floor and his tiptoes because it's great. Yeah, but I mean, he really is becoming somebody that we can go to for a bucket, right? I said earlier that a lot of times when we get down into our offense, and I understand that our offense is a lot of downhill, which I like the way that we play offense. I wish it was a little more successful sometimes, but the downhill drive, cut, try to find somebody or kick out 3. We're looking to draw. We're looking to draw an extra defender to the guy going downhill, and then that guy, dish off and get an easy bucket. Sometimes that doesn't work, right? Like we've seen that stall over the past 3 or 4 games a lot, where we on offense we just look like we're dribbling around, backing back out, dribbling it, and so we need a guy that if we're 7 seconds on the shot clock and we need a bucket. Who do we go to? And, Malik Dia is becoming that guy, and not just a big back to the basket guy. He can shoot the 3. And I mean, he can handle the basketball too. Like, I mean, you see him out there and he looks like he's just nonchalantly just dribbling, but he's going between his legs. He's going behind his back. And so some of those bigger guys, some of those 6'10", 6'11" guys who doesn't move laterally as quickly, as the smaller guys, he can get by those and take them to the rim just like Jalen Brakefield can. And so I think that both of those guys are becoming that scoring option that if we got to have a basket, we're going to look for one of those 2 guys.
Yeah. And something else Dia has done a really good job of is we're obviously not really deep at that position. He stayed out of foul trouble, right? On top of the 19.7 boards, he has 2 block shots and only 1 personal foul in 25 minutes. So he does a good job of staying under control, not picking up fouls, not taking himself out of the game, which is a really big deal for this Ole Miss club because right now with Brown out going through concussion protocol and all that, we need Dia in there as much as possible, right?
I was going to ask. I wasn't sure why we didn't see him. Obviously, I didn't do a damn bit of research as to why we didn't see him because I'm sure it was probably very readily available. I was just like, oh, why didn't we see Brown Jones play? Okay, yeah, that answers that question. Next.
Yeah, didn't play last game. I think it happened in the Georgia game. And so
I remember when it happened. Now that you said that, I remember when you said concussion protocol. I remember that Georgia game. He came down and it didn't look nearly that bad, but his head it snapped back and hit. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. But once you get him back, though, this team I think is going to go to another level. I think it speaks volumes to what Chris Beard is doing with this group, being able to weather that storm, so to speak. Jamin Brakefield quietly putting together a pretty good stretch of games here, Hitch, particularly in the second half. That seems to be where he takes off for Ole Miss. He ends the night our second leading scorer, 16 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. Did have the 3 turnovers. You do want to see that get cut out a little bit, but ends up with 1 offensive rebound as well on top of that. Goes 6 for 7 from the free throw line. He's just kind of been Mr. Steady, Mr. Consistent ever since league play started for us.
Yeah, I mean, he's a bit of a unicorn, right? I mean, that's you don't want to just throw that term around, but I mean, when you look at him, he can score with his back to the basket. He can score dribbling the ball to the basket. He can score from behind the arc, mid-range. And what makes him, very difficult to guard is his ability to use both hands interchangeably. And I mean, I'm sure anybody who's listened to an Ole Miss game, knows the story of why he can use both hands. Not going to bore anybody with that. But I think that is what makes him special is the defender. There's a 50-50 shot whether he's going to go with his right hand or his left hand. And the defender can't cheat one way or the other. He's also very good, or he has been very good at the free throw line, right? So when he does go to the basket, maybe he doesn't score, he gets fouled and scores that way. So, yeah, he's been very consistent. And, man, I'm glad that he came back for this senior year because I think they said it last night in the broadcast, like he doesn't start, but, I mean, he is a starter. And when you look at it, he played damn near
21 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say he played, half the game. And so he's a guy that can play a 3. He could play the 4 and he could play the 5, And I mean, you could even have him out there and handle the ball if you needed him to. And so I think that's what makes him very, very important for our offense.
Yeah, and very versatile. And another guy like that, you talk about somebody coming off the bench like Brakefield. Juju Murray also comes off the bench, played 30 minutes for us last night, scores 10 points, had a couple steals, actually got a block in there too. So let's not underestimate the little fella out there. 3 assists, 1 rebound, 2 for 5 from downtown, 4 for 8 overall shooting the ball. And it just kind of seems like every time you need a big shot, you can go to Juju. You saw it with that 3 when LSU started to make a little bit of a run with about 8 minutes left there in the game. And Juju came down, kind of got a guy on skates a little bit, stepped back, hit a 3 from the top of the key there, and really never looked back after that.
Yeah, I was listening. I left at halftime to go get me and Sawyer some supper at Connie's, and on the way back home, the second half started, so I was listening to DK, and I hear DK go wild, and then I hear him say, "Pick your britches up, boy," and it was like talking about Juju and how he made that move, and so I had to get home and see what it looked like. It was good, but man, I love watching Jalen Murray work. Right? I think I've used the term, I don't know on here, but I know with you, like me, I like to watch him meander. I mean, the way that he just picks at, like, he just never picks up his dribble. And he just kind of just picks his spot, almost like a running back looking for, the right gap to cut through. But he's also never looking to just score. He knows that if he draws someone to him with that move, he can kick it out. And so it's fun to watch a guard like him that knows what he's doing and being able to handle the ball. It's fun to watch him work. I enjoy it.
Yeah, he's kind of like the Le'Veon Bell on a basketball court, right? You'd see Le'Veon Bell with the Steelers get the ball and stand back there for like 3 seconds and just wait for a hole to open up, and then he would attack it. Juju does a really good job of that. One thing that he did really good yesterday was drawing the defense to him, like you said, picking his spots, getting into the middle, and drawing the defense in. And this is kind of where Matt Morrell got going a little bit. I would imagine Chris Beard had to talk with Matt Morrell after the game and said, look, we're done with shots from the wing, from the top of the key. You're a corner guy, right? And that's one thing Juju did a really good job of. Drew the defense, found Matt in the corner. He was able to hit a couple of threes there to kind of get things going for him there in the first half as well. So that's one thing that Juju brings to this team. He's obviously a guy that's really looking to pass the ball or score it, just whatever is being given to him at that point. Let's kind of look ahead a little bit here, looking at the rest of the schedule. Ole Miss has a huge week coming up this week, Hitch. Both road games here. We're going to Tuscaloosa on Tuesday night before we travel to Starkville on Saturday. And like I said, these are two quad one opportunities. Alabama obviously undefeated in league play. Mississippi State dropped their first game last night on Saturday night to Kentucky in a hard-fought game. They almost come back and won that. You get Alabama at 6 o'clock on Tuesday in Tuscaloosa on ESPNU, and then either ESPN or ESPN2 for the Mississippi State game at 5 o'clock on Saturday. When you look at the way things have started for Ole Miss here, these two games are kind of like free shots. You would love to get at least one of them, but since you've come out and you've won these first three games, now this is just a huge opportunity to where all you can do is help yourself and not hurt yourself.
Yeah, right. Like, and you hope that as a team you're looking at it that way, right? Like it's not you're not going in playing timid as we have to protect our 3-0 record. We can't lose this game. It's hey, we're playing with house money. Like hey,
that's right.
500 on red. Let's go. Whatever it is. But yeah, at this point you're playing with house money, and you can you don't have to play scared. You don't have to play timid. Go out there and play your game and beat the Alabama Crimson Tide on their home floor. Let's go. Yeah, it's that easy to do it. It's that easy. Just go beat them. Whatever.
Yeah, just do it. That's all you got to do, right? Yeah, you should go into all of these games coming up. We actually have 4 straight quad one opportunities coming up at Alabama, at State. Then you get Texas A&M back in Oxford on January 22nd on a Wednesday, and then you go to Columbia, Missouri. As of now, all 4 of those games are going to be quad one opportunities. If you're able to come out of that stretch 2-2, take the game in Oxford, take the game in Columbia, and then if you're just able to get one of these other 2 road games in Tuscaloosa, in Starkville, you're just in really good shape. And then you take a look at the rest of the schedule. I was telling you before we ended up hitting record, we have 15 SEC games left. As of right now, only 4 of those are quad 2. The other 11 are quad 1 at this point. Texas in Oxford's a quad 2. Auburn and Oxford, obviously quad 1. Kentucky and Oxford, quad 1. LSU on the road. I think that ended up being, let me double check real quick, but I think that ended up being a quad 1 opportunity. I think they were 69th. Yeah, 69th in the net. So that's still a quad 1 as of right now. South Carolina on the road is a quad 2. That's the only SEC team that is a quad 2 opportunity when you play them on the road. But then Mississippi State at home's quad 1. Vanderbilt, Nashville's quad 1. Auburn on the road, quad 1. Oklahoma at home's 2. Tennessee at home is a 1. And then obviously at Gainesville will be a 1 as well. Just a absolutely brutal schedule, but you could say that for literally everybody in the SEC. I think I saw where of the 17 remaining hardest schedules in the entire country, 16 of the 17 are all 16 SEC members.
Well, I mean, it feels like every year it's always like it's every year in every sport we always say, "Oh, the SEC can't get any harder," right? And
then here we are.
And here we are saying that this is the hardest that it's ever been. Here are these numbers to back it up. It's wild, but yeah, Florida's going to eat our lunch, man. And looking at that last game down there, Florida's going. The way that they make it their mission
that doesn't really matter to us.
Yeah, I hope so too. But the way that they eat the offensive side of the ball, I watched them play a couple times this year.
Yeah,
but yeah,
really
just But real quick, going back to the 3-0 thing, it's important because as you were talking, I thought of a comparison, right? It's just the opposite of what another team just north of us is having to go through, right? In Fayetteville, right? They're 0-3 starting this SEC season, and so their backs against the wall. You know, there is, you know, basically 3 games in, there's zero room for error. And so it's a completely different scenario, and it's nice for once to be on this side of it.
Yeah, that's right. Because particularly in basketball, we haven't been on this side of it very much the last few years. It's really incredible what Chris Beard and his staff's been able to do in such a short
y'all
time.
Y'all gonna hear about it. So everybody, when we are, everybody's gonna hear about it.
Damn right. And when we're not, you're not going to hear shit.
Nope.
All right, guys, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Listen, if you're ever around the Oxford area and, you know, Ole Miss has home games, like I said, the next one, January 22nd, that's on a Wednesday, 8 o'clock. I know that's midweek, late, but this team has really earned this fan base's support, right? If you're in or around the Oxford area, get to the pavilion, go pack out the pavilion, support this team. They're playing really hard. They're playing really good. And we finally have a basketball team that we can be really proud of here in Oxford, and that's something we haven't been able to say for the last few years. I, for one, am all in. You know, for the last 2 or 3 years, whenever those Wednesday 8 o'clock games popped up, I wasn't one that was going to be staying up, and because you know how early I get up. It's 3:30 in the morning. By the time that game ends at 10:30, only looking at a few hours sleep. Now I will go back to being tired. That's not a big deal. I'll just deal with it the next day. So, but this team has earned our support. They deserve to have packed houses every single home game when we're in Oxford. So if you're able to get there, support this team. It's a lot of fun. Took my kids to their first game for Georgia, and they had an absolute blast. So it's a really fun family environment as well. So y'all get out, support this team, pack the pavilion. Hitch, we will get back on here and continue following this basketball team. Got baseball coming up here in just over a month as well, so we got to start diving into that. I know me and you've kind of texted. We're both probably a little more fired up than we should be, being a month and a half away from baseball season. But we definitely have thoughts about this upcoming Rebel baseball team, and we both think they can be pretty good and pretty exciting. We're ready to get that going too.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yep.
All right, buddy. We'll holler at you later. Hi, Toddy.
All right, man. Hi, Toddy.